So we're nicely into the start of the year now, which of course means lots of new equipment being brought out by the big brands. Now, we've done reviews on each of the 4 drivers in front of me individually, but today I'm going to talk you through these 4. So we've got drivers from Ping, TaylorMade, Callaway and Cobra with their new releases for 2024. We're going to do a little bit of a comparison and talk you through various different categories to say which driver's coming out on top, which driver can give you certain things, and just do an overall comparison of these 4 new drivers. So before we get into the video, make sure that you drop a like and that you're subscribed to the Golf A Lot YouTube channel, and make sure to watch to the end of this video so that you can find out which driver could be the right one for you. The 2 big stories this year with the drivers has been that 10K MOI mark. So we've got the Ping G430 10K and also the TaylorMade QI10 Max. We've also got the Paradigm AI Smoke Max driver and the Cobra Dark Speed X. Now, the reason that I've picked these particular models from each of the driver ranges is that these are the driver heads that we think are going to be most popular and most used out of the different ranges. We're not going to be doing a direct head-to-head comparison between them. For example, the TaylorMade QI10 Max and the Cobra Dark Speed X are trying to achieve very different things, but we're still going to go through each category and talk about what each driver is able to give the golfer. So the 4 main categories we are going to talk through today are looks, forgiveness, distance, and value for money. So first category that we're going into is looks. Now, what I'm talking about in this category is the overall package of this. So we're looking at the shelf appeal, from the sole of the club to the head cover to how it looks at address. First up, my favorite driver in this category is the Cobra Dark Speed X. Now, this has a dark matte finish to the top of it, and the entire driver is very simple in terms of its design. That black theme runs across into the head cover as well, and for me, I just think this looks really smart. It's also quite different in the sense that I feel as though we don't see very many fully darkened golf clubs, and for me, I just wouldn't change very much about this design at all. Following along from that, my next 2 drivers would be the QI10 Max and the Ping. Now, for me, the base of these clubs are both very busy and there is a lot going on, but the main thing to mention in terms of the looks is how drawn out this club head is. It looks a lot bigger at address, and for some people that's going to be great. It's going to inspire lots of confidence. For some people it's going to be a little bit off-putting. I would say that I probably prefer the TaylorMade at address. It's a little bit simpler, a little bit cleaner, not as much going on, whereas with the Ping one there's a little bit more design. You've got these turbulators and the change in pattern across the top of it. So just a little bit too much going on for me in terms of the Ping driver there. And then finally, sort of following on in that same theme, for me, the Paradigm AI Smoke has a lot going on with it. The forged carbon pattern is really exaggerated. There's a lot of colors and textures and just a little bit too much going on for me with the Callaway driver. So looking at forgiveness, the way that I'm going to rank this is sort of 2-parted to it. So when we tested these drivers out, we took them indoor onto Foresight, so I've got the data between the left to right and front to back dispersion, but obviously there's also the element of how these were performing out on the golf course. Coming in last place is the Cobra Dark Speed driver. However, Cobra isn't looking to be super forgiving this year. That's not one of the claims they're making. They're more looking to be chasing speed and distance. Now, going on to the other 3 drivers that we have left, it is so difficult to rank and put these in order because they all performed really, really well and are all so close in terms of the dispersions. If we were to just go from what I was feeling out on the golf course, the very clear winner in that instance would have been the Ping G430 10K. Every single time I hit multiple shots off the tee with the Ping driver, they just ended up unbelievably close together. Now, something that I found really impressive with the TaylorMade QI10 Max driver was that there was only 1 yard in terms of the dispersion front to back, which means that this was going the same distance every single shot, which was really, really impressive. There was slightly higher left to right dispersion with the TaylorMade compared to the Ping and the Callaway, coming out at 9 yards left to right. And then looking at the Ping and the AI Smoke, there was very, very little difference between them. The Ping had a left to right dispersion of 5 yards and a front to back of 6, and the Callaway just beat the Ping driver with a left to right dispersion of 4 yards and a front to back of 5, so just 1 yard better in both categories. Something I will just mention is that I do think it's very impressive how well Callaway performed in this category, because Ping and TaylorMade were the ones claiming to be that ultimate groundbreaking forgiveness at 10K moment of inertia, which isn't something that Callaway was claiming, and yet Callaway came out really, really strong in terms of the dispersion. We're going to go on to looking at distance, but I do just want to preface this with saying that we didn't test these drivers with the same shaft, but instead we tested them with the standard shaft that came from the supplier for that particular head. So there will be a little bit of variation there, just to bear in mind when we're looking at some of the distances. So going on to distance, the way that we're going to look and compare the distances is by looking at obviously the average, carry and total, but also just picking out what was the longest possible shot that I got with each of the drivers to see if there's potential for really long distances with any of these clubs. So the two clubs that were coming out highest in terms of distance were the QI10 Max and the Ping G430 10K. Now there was an overwhelming winner in terms of the distance, which was the Ping driver. With the Ping driver, I was getting an average total of 245 yards with a carry of 222. And with the QI10 Max, my total was very similar at 243, but the carry was a little bit lower at 216, so just getting a little bit more rollout with the TaylorMade driver. As we said earlier, the TaylorMade was really consistent in terms of distance, so the longest possible shot that I could get with this was only 1 yard further than the average at 244 yards total. However, with the Ping, I was able to get it up to 255 yards, which for me is just really, really pushing the boundary of how far I can possibly hit a driver. So I was really happy to see that with the Ping. Now, going on to the Callaway and Cobra drivers, like we said, there were some differences in the shaft weights. These were both slightly heavier by 5 or 10 grams, so because of that, I was swinging it a little bit slower. So the average total distances were the same for both of these drivers at 234 yards, which, to be honest, is a little bit shorter than I would expect, even for that slight increase in weight. And if we look at the carry distances, they were also a little bit down at 208 yards for the Callaway and 209 for the Cobra. Again, there was a big difference, however, in terms of the longest possible shot that I could achieve, which came out as being the Cobra compared to the two of them, which managed a maximum distance of 248 yards, which again, ever pushing towards the 250 number for me is really impressive. So it was great to see that with the Cobra driver. However, the Callaway could only get a little bit higher than its average at 238 yards. So going on to value for money, I'm going to start off discussing the Ping and the TaylorMade because they've both performed very highly in both performance categories. Now, although they have performed very similar and very well, there is a big difference between them, which is the price. The Ping G430 10K is coming in at an RRP of £599, whereas the TaylorMade QI10 Max is £499, so £100 cheaper. I don't think I could say that there was £100 difference in improvement on the Ping Club, even though I did prefer it. So going down that route of looking at the lower price clubs, the Cobra Dark Speed X is the cheapest driver out of these 4 available. So even though the TaylorMade QI10 Max is £70 more expensive than the Cobra, I would say that that is probably coming up again as better value for money because its performance in terms of the distance and forgiveness was significantly higher than the Cobra Dark Speed. However, the Cobra could be a good club to choose if you're wanting that lower price point to enable you to chase a little bit of speed and distance without having to fork out loads of money. And finally, looking at the Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke, this comes in with an RRP of £569, so slightly cheaper than the Ping driver. Now, something to bear in mind with the Paradigm AI Smoke is that it does have this adjustable weighting so that you could choose a fade or draw bias, which obviously has to add a little bit in terms of value for money. However, if we compare it to the other drivers we have here, I'd probably rank it similar to the value for money of the Ping driver, because as we saw, the forgiveness and dispersion was just as good as the Ping driver, even though it fell behind a little bit in terms of distance. Overall, I think I'd definitely put the TaylorMade QI10 Max as the best value for money, looking at its price and how it performed in all categories. So let's do a little summary of each of the clubs so that you guys can also then see which one might be the best suited for you and for your game. Starting off with our best ranking value for money, we're going to look at the TaylorMade QI10 Max. I don't necessarily like the look at the sole, but it is nice and clean and simple at a dress. As we saw, it was so consistent in terms of distance and very well performing for forgiveness, and we were getting some really good distances with it as well. As we mentioned, it's a little bit lower price point than the Ping and the Callaway, so this would be a great driver for anybody looking for an all-round performer that's going to give them lots of consistency without pushing on the higher boundary for price point. I'm now going to come on to what I think was probably my personal favourite out of all the drivers, which is the Ping G430 10K. I'm not super keen on the design of it in terms of the colour scheme that they've used, and it does get a little bit busy on the top with the turbulators and the change in pattern. However, I really like the size of it at a dress. It is that bigger, drawn out, more confidence-inspiring shape. But for me, I was able to see really good forgiveness and consistency out on the golf course, as well as being able to push some really high distances. This is the most expensive driver out of the lot. It is my favorite in how it's performed. So if you're looking for a driver that you want to invest in, that's going to give you really high distances alongside being super forgiving and consistent, this could be the driver for you. So coming on to the Callaway Paradigm AI Smoke. For me, I wasn't super keen on the looks of this club. It's just very busy and in your face. We did see that it performed really well in terms of forgiveness and the left to right and front to back dispersion, but we also saw that it struggled a little bit in the distance category. And in terms of value for money, it's still quite an expensive club. However, it does have the draw fade bias. So if you're looking for a consistent, reliable driver, the Paradigm AI Smoke Max definitely should be one for you to test out. And finally, coming on to the Cobra Dark Speed X. I personally really enjoyed using this out on the course. I think it looks the best out of all the drivers, but we did see it fall behind a little bit in the forgiveness category, and we did see some scope to chase some high distances and high speeds with this, even though the averages were a little bit lower. So if you're looking for a driver that isn't going to be pushing that super high price point and allows you to chase some speed and some distances, I would definitely say to give the Cobra Dark Speed X a go. It's been super fun being able to test out all of these drivers. Each one is a great club for different reasons, and I want to know what you guys think. Is there one of these drivers in particular that you're going to try out? Let me know down in the comments. As always, you can check out my written reviews on each of these drivers over on the Golf A Lot website, and make sure that you're subscribed to the Golf A Lot YouTube channel so that you don't miss any reviews from us in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and subscribe for more.